curtains! Monster Madness!
The Satanic Rites of Dracula, the final Hammer Dracula movie with Christopher Lee. This is the one I've seen the least amount of times. Now that I've watched it again, I've been reminded why. It's an incredibly bizarre mixture of horror, science fiction, and espionage. It's considered to be a sequel to Dracula AD 1972. Other than the fact it's set in the same time period, it has very little connection. It comes off as a completely different film. The tone is much darker, and it takes itself very seriously. It doesn't draw attention to its 1970s time period. There's no hippies, bell-bottoms, or funk music. Dracula's resurrection is not shown or explained in any detail. He just shows up randomly at a half hour into the movie and is never seen often until the last 20 minutes. Christopher Lee always said that Dracula seemed tacked on, as if they wrote the story first and then thrown in Dracula after the fact. For this one, it couldn't be more true. There's all these satanic rituals going on and spies running around. It's as far removed from Dracula as possible and doesn't even feel like a Hammer film. It's very slow moving. 90% of the scenes are people sitting around in rooms talking. The good news is that Peter Cushing is in a lot of it. He's the star and single-handedly carries the movie, even though most of what he does is just give exposition. It's an exposition extravaganza with Van Helsing explaining stuff all the time. Every vampire rule in the book is mentioned. They don't cast a reflection or even show up in photographs. He lists all the ways a vampire can be killed. Running water, silver's mentioned again, and a new one is added to the list, a hawthorn bush.
Anything else?
The hawthorn tree, which provided Christ with his crown of thorns.
Dracula's evil scheme goes far beyond biting the necks of luscious young ladies. Now get ready for this. This is the part where you'd either say the series completely jumps the shark or becomes more awesome than ever. Dracula is working on developing a new form of bacteria similar to the bubonic plague that will kill everyone in the world. This brings Dracula to a whole new level of supervillain. He is the devil and he is the Armageddon. That is pretty cool, but you might be wondering how Dracula would survive without fresh blood to feast on. Van Helsing's theory is that Dracula is a cursed immortal wanting to end his own wretched existence and take the whole universe down with him. For the last Dracula movie to star Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, it gives them both their moments to shine. Cushing has a doomy monologue where he talks about the Armageddon.
But just suppose he yearns for final peace. What then? He'd want to bring down the whole universe with him. The ultimate revenge.
And Lee has some great lines and escalates his voice in a way that we haven't heard yet.
4 horsemen of my created apocalypse. 4 carriers of the plague who will infect their miserable brethren. You, Van Helsing, are now one of the 4.
It's the most evil speech ever spoken by Dracula in the whole series. It's moments like this I love, but there are silly moments as well. Van Helsing plans to kill Dracula with a silver bullet, something that's usually used for a werewolf, but whatever. He melts a silver cross and uses that to make the bullet. I think it's a little excessive. Isn't it enough that it's silver? Does it have to be a cross too? Then he meets up with a guy named Denham who he suspects to be Dracula. We only see this Denham guy in this one scene, and it's no surprise that he's Dracula. We've already seen Dracula earlier in the film, and he doesn't change his appearance in any way. Although he talks in a different accent here. It's really weird. It sounds a little bit like Bela Lugosi.
He was the servant of this foundation. I am the master.
So Van Helsing secretly slips a Bible onto his desk. When Dracula touches it, it burns his hand, making his true identity known.
You are Count Dracula.
So a Bible can burn Dracula? Man, he is so vulnerable. Van Helsing tries to shoot the silver bullet at him. Think he could have found a smaller gun? One of Dracula's servants screws up his aim. Too bad he only made 1 bullet. Much later, Dracula and Van Helsing have a showdown in a burning house. It's classic stuff. Then Dracula follows Van Helsing outside, where there conveniently happens to be a hawthorn bush. Dracula walks into it like a dumbass and is stuck with thorns all over his body. He falls down and resembles Jesus Christ with the crown of thorns. Then Van Helsing uses a piece of the fence as a stake and rams it into Dracula's body while he convulses in agony and crumbles away to dust for the final time. In conclusion, it's a mixed bag. The majority of it is too slow and is the weakest of the series, but a few highlights and a great ending make it worthwhile for any classic horror fan. The original working title was Dracula is Dead and Well and Living in London, which is ridiculous. The original American title was Count Dracula and His Vampire Bride. For some reason, this is the only one of the Hammer Draculas to slip into the public domain. That means you can find it on any of those cheap bargain DVD sets. The rest of the series is a bit confusing to find on DVD. The first one, along with 3, 4, and 6, are on a quad pack from Warner Brothers. Number 5, Scars of Dracula, is on an Anchor Bay DVD with bonus features and commentary with Christopher Lee, but unfortunately it's out of print and expensive to find on Region 1. Number 2, Dracula Prince of Darkness, and number 7, Satanic Rites of Dracula, are on a double DVD also from Anchor Bay and with a Christopher Lee commentary on the Dracula Prince of Darkness portion. But again, it's out of print. Anchor Bay or Hammer or whoever owns the rights to these out-of-print editions seriously needs to get their shit together and re-release them. It would be nice if all these movies could be owned by the same company and released on one set, but I won't hold my breath for it. There is one more Hammer movie to feature Dracula, Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, a martial arts horror crossover. Peter Cushing is in it, but Christopher Lee is not. They actually got somebody else to play Dracula and is only on screen for a few minutes. I happen to review this one already as part of last year's Monster Madness. Well, starting tomorrow, we're going to spend a week with a certain horror villain from the 80s.
Now my revenge is complete.